Welcome to Muscles and Magic the Gathering. Now, I am Bobby Maximus. I am the muscles, these cards, Magic the Gathering, something that's been a massive passion of mine for 31 years since 1994. I started playing in Unlimited. But today, I broke out the tank top. I got the pre-workout on board. Why? Because we are going to talk about the beefiest, the most massive, the most muscular, the most powerful Magic the Gathering deck of all time, my colorless Eldrazi deck. Now, maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration. I'm going to tell you right now, this deck is not necessarily made to be competitive. That said, it wins a lot. But this was built with collection in mind. This was built to showcase one of my favorite typal, kinfolk, tribal groups of all time, the baddest, the strongest group in Magic the Gathering history, the Eldrazi. So without further ado, let's dive into this Eldrazi deck, because again, it is absolutely beefy. It is absolutely massive. And if you want to learn about all the Eldrazi, all Eldrazi history, all the good Eldrazi cards, you have come to the right place. This is everything Eldrazi. We're going to call this the complete anthology of Eldrazi cards, all right? So first of all, we got to talk about our commander. The commander I've chosen today, there was really only one. It was Emrakul, the Promised End. Now, could it have been Emrakul, the Eon's Torn? Absolutely, because I do play with banned cards. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I didn't want a banned commander, all right? So we chose Emrakul, the Promised End. And by the way, I think Emrakul, the Promised End is actually a better card than the Eon's Torn, and I think it's more powerful, all right? So, Emrakul, the Promised End, it costs one less to cast for each card type among cards in your graveyard. When you cast Emrakul, you gain control of target opponent during that player's next turn. After that turn, that player takes an extra turn. They're not going to be taking an extra turn. We're going to absolutely wreck their day. And then flying, trampled, protection from instants, and it's a 13/13. This is an absolute game ender. And as a piece of strategy, one of the things that I really, really love doing is playing on somebody else's turn, killing their own commander, and then getting rid of it, not allowing it to come back to the command zone and just ruining the rest of their day. So just keep that in mind if you play with Emrakul, the Promised End. Really mean thing to do to somebody. But that is our commander. We're going to put that off to the side because we are moving on to the Planeswalkers. And the first Planeswalker, and I just realized I need to take this out, Karn Liberated. +4 ability, target player exiles a card from his or her hand. The -3 ability, exile target permanent. And the final ability, restart the game, leaving in exile all non-aura permanent cards exiled with Karn Liberated. Then put those cards onto the battlefield under your control. Great Planeswalker, but it is getting cut by another card I like. So keep that in mind. We'll put this off to the side, and then we'll be back to that later. Next card, one that is staying in the deck because it's massive here, Ugin, Eye of Storms. When you cast this spell, exile up to one target permanent, that's one or more colors. Whenever you cast a colorless spell, exile up to one target permanent, that's one or more colors. The +2 ability, you gain 3 life and draw a card. For the 0 ability, you add 3 mana, and this is huge. Mana ramp in this deck is everything. This breaks all the rules of a typical Bobby Maximus Muscles and Magic the Gathering deck. I'll tell you why in a minute. But this deck's going to need a lot of mana ramp for a very specific reason, so stay tuned for that. And then the final ability, search your library for any number of colorless non-land cards, exile them, then shuffle until end of turn. You may cast those cards without paying their mana cost. One of the reasons there's a lot of mana ramp in this deck, and it breaks all the Bobby Maximus rules, I've got my side computer pulled up. There will be my deck list available for you in the show notes if you want to look at this. But the total mana value of this deck is an insane 303. It is way too big to be as competitive truly as I would like it to be, even though I said before it ends up pretty good. Talked about this before, but I want to talk about it right now. I usually like the total mana value of my decks to be under 200. That means they move fast and furious. When you look at the most competitive, the best decks in the world, they're 145, 150, 160. They move fast, all right? 200 is a number I've come up with. If it's below 200, the deck's going to be really competitive and move fast. This one, because I wanted to feature a bunch of the Eldrazi, is a massive 3/3. So when you have a high mana value deck, now back up a second. What's mana value? Well, you can see here, Emrakul, the Promised End is 13. Ugin, Eye of the Storms is 7. That means 20 total mana value. You add all the symbols on the cards up together. 3/3 for this deck, all right? That's the mana value. The way to combat that is you need a ton of mana ramp, more than normal. Like if you need normally 10 pieces of mana ramp, you're going to need 20, all right? You're also going to need more lands. So a card like Ugin, Eye of Storms, because it acts as mana ramp, massive in this deck. And we are going to make some live cuts today. We're going to try to reduce the mana value. I'd like to get it into the 200s. We'll see what we can do. Another way to deal with massive casting cost stuff is to reduce the casting cost of your spells. So hence, Ugin the Ineffable. Colorless spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. That's the main part of this card. That's honestly, truly the only reason it's in this deck. Now, sure, it has this -3 ability. Destroy target permanent that's one or more colors can be useful. But really what I want is I want to reduce the casting cost. Now, if I have that out, the casting cost of Emrakul isn't 13. It is 11. We have another Planeswalker, Ugin the Spirit Dragon. Ugin the Spirit Dragon deals 3 damage to target creature or player for the +2 ability. The -X ability, exile each permanent with converted mana cost X or less. That's 1 or more colors. The final ability, you gain 7 life, draw 7 cards, and put up to 7 permanent cards from your hand onto the battlefield. Great Planeswalkers. Now let's talk about creatures. And this is what's really, really crushing the mana value of this deck. I'm going to talk about mana value a lot, but it's because we have creatures like this. It that betrays 12 casting cost. Annihilator 2. Whenever this creature attacks, defending player sacrifices 2 permanents. Whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent, put that card onto the battlefield under your control. It that betrays is one of the best Eldrazi's ever, and it is more than worth it to put it in your deck, even though it has a high casting cost. Another one, and you can see what's happening here with these high casting costs, the Void Winnower. Your opponents can't cast spells with even converted mana costs. Your opponents can't block with creatures with even converted mana costs. Absolute game ender, this card. Big, powerful, bad Eldrazi. The Endless One. Here's a low casting cost Eldrazi. Well, maybe. If you get it out on turn 1, it costs 1, and you get a 1/1 creature. If you get it out on turn 10, and you got 10 mana, you can make a 10/10 creature. Love the Endless One. We got a 0-drop here. An Ornithopter flying. It's a 0/2, but it can act as a blocker, and it's a way to get the mana value down in the deck. The Eldrazi Mimic. Whenever another colorless creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may change Eldrazi's Mimic base power adeptus to that creature's power adeptus until the end of turn. So if this guy comes into the battlefield, now Eldrazi Mimic becomes a 13/13. Super usable card with all these massive Eldrazi's. We have It That Heralds the End, another low casting cost Eldrazi. And colorless spells you cast with mana value 7 or greater cost 1 less to cast. So again, we're reducing the casting cost of all these big, beefy creatures. That's how we're dealing with that mana value. And that's why, even though I said it's not my most competitive deck, it ends up being more competitive than I'm probably leading you to believe, because we're going to reduce the casting cost of everything, and the deck's going to work just fine, all right? Other colorless creatures you control get +1/+1. Zul'Adak, the Void Gorger. Colorless spells you cast from your hand with mana value 7 or greater have Cascade. What does Cascade mean, by the way? I don't want to go too fast. When you cast 1 exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card that costs less, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. Put the exiled cards on the bottom of your library in a random order, then do it again. Massive with all the Eldrazi Titans in here. The Endbringer. Untap Endbringer during each other player's untap step. Endbringer deals 1 damage to any target by tapping it. Tap it and pay a colorless mana. Target creature can't attack or block this turn. Pay 2 mana, draw a card. Great Eldrazi features card draw action. I'm going to put that to the side, though, because that's one of the ones that might get cut. It's honestly, truly not my favorite card, but I wanted to showcase it because it is an Eldrazi. The Flayer of Loyalties. When you cast this spell, gain control of target creature until the end of turn. Untap that creature until end of turn. It has base power up to 10/10. has trample, Annihilator 2, and haste. And this card itself has trample and Annihilator 2. Flare of Loyalties, $13 Eldrazi card. It is one of the better ones. Oblivion Solar. Nice spoil version of it. When you cast Oblivion Solar, target opponent exiles the top 4 cards of his or her library. Then you may put any number of land cards that player owns from exile onto the battlefield under your control. Conduit of Ruin. When you cast Conduit of Ruin, you may search your library for a colorless creature card with converted mana cost 7 or greater. Reveal it, then shuffle your library, put that card on top of it. So a great way to tutor one of those big, bad Eldrazi's. The first creature spell you cast each turn costs 2 less to cast. Again, a cost reducer. I can't stress this enough. If you're going to build a deck with a high mana value, you need cost reducers. You need a lot of mana ramp. You need a lot of lands. And this deck covers all 3 of those things. I wish more Eldrazi were like this. The Sire of the 7 Deaths. It's only a casting cost of 7, but look at this thing. First Strike, Vigilance, Menace, Trample, Reach, Lifelink. Like basically every keyword in Magic the Gathering history. Ward, place 7 life. Not a big deal because you're going to get lifelink. The Spawn Sire of Ulamog. Annihilator 1. This is a 10 casting cost. You pay 4, put 2 0/1 Eldrazi spawn creature tokens onto the battlefield. They have sacrifice this creature. Add 1 to your mana pool, so away to mana ramp. Pay 20, cast any number of Eldrazi cards you own from outside the game without paying their mana cost. That's a game ender, especially because I have 2 Eldrazi decks. My other one's an Ulamog deck. It uses some of the colored Eldrazi. It's a 5-color deck. It's a great deck. I will put a link to that in the show notes as well. However, those decks, I always have them side by side. So if I can get this out and I can pay that 20, all the other Eldrazi's are coming in, and that is usually a game ender. Eternal Scourge. You may cast Eternal Scourge from exile. When Eternal Scourge becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, exile Eternal Scourge, a nice lower casting cost Eldrazi. You know, I wish Magic the Gathering would really make a lot of lower casting cost Eldrazi's. I want to see some 0 drops, some 1 drops, some 2 drops, and 1 drops with power creep, like ones that are super powerful, like akin to something like the Delver of Secrets, something like, and I know it's a 2-drop, but the Dockside Extortionist, something like a Dranith Magistrate or a Grand Abolisher or the Esper Sentinel, the greatest 1-drop of all time. Like, I would love to have some lower casting cost Eldrazi's so I can build a better Eldrazi deck. Kozilek's Channeler. And on that note, that's one of the challenging things with building an Eldrazi deck is at the high casting cost. It makes it hard to really, really build a great one. Kozilek's Channeler. Add 2 to your mana pool, more mana ramp. Thought-Knot Seer. It's going to allow you to see your opponent's hand. It's going to allow you to exile a non-land card from it. And when it leaves the battlefield, target opponent draws a card. This is great. If you can see your opponent's hand and get an idea of their strategy, it's going to help you win the game. So I love the Thought-Knot Seer. Roaming Throne. You're building a typo, kinfolk, tribal deck, whatever you want to call it. You need a Roaming Throne. I wish I had a lot more of these, but I don't. They would go in my Merfolk deck, my Goblin deck, my Elf deck, like everything. They are great. Ward 2 is Roaming Throne enters the battlefield. Choose a creature type. Roaming Throne is the chosen type in addition to its other types. If a triggered ability of another creature you control the chosen type triggers, it triggers an additional time. We have the Scrawling Crawler, not an Eldrazi, but a lower casting cost creature because I got to get some stuff on the board. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player draws a card. Whenever an opponent draws a card, that player loses 1 life, all right? I'm actually going to put that to the side because I might cut that for an Ornithopter of Paradise, a little bit less of a casting cost and allows for more mana ramp. And this is what goes through my head as I build decks, all right? The Hangerback Walker. Hangerback Walker enters the battlefield with X 1/1 counters on it. When a Hangerback Walker dies, put a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying onto the battlefield for each 1/1 counter on Hangerback Walker. Pay 1, put a 1/1 counter on Hangerback Walker. This is great because you can get this out turn 2 as a 1/1, so a great way to get a lower casting cost creature out. Glaring Fleshraker. Whenever you cast a colorless spell, create a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature token with sacrifice this creature, add a colorless mana. Whenever another colorless creature enters the battlefield under your control, Glaring Fleshraker deals 1 damage to each opponent, a great way to mana ramp. Now we are into the big boys, the Titans. First one up, Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger. By the way, each one of these is pretty much a game ender. There's one weak link that I'm going to take out of this deck. I'll address that in a minute, but let's talk about one that is staying because it's super powerful. Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger. When you cast a spell, exile 2 target permanents. Indestructible. Whenever it attacks, defending player exiles the top 20 cards of their library. Another Ulamog, the Infinite Guile. When you cast a spell, destroy target permanent, indestructible, Annihilator 4. And if it's put into a graveyard, you shuffle it into your library. The Butcher of Truth, Kozilek. When you cast Kozilek, Butcher of Truth, draw 4 cards. It's got Annihilator 4. And again, it's not going to the graveyard, going back in your library. These cards are actually worth a pretty penny too. The Butcher of Truth alone is worth $41. Now for Ulamog the Defiler, a $23 card right now. When you cast this spell, target opponent exiles half their library, rounded up, massive ward, sacrifice 2 permanents. Ulamog the Defiler enters the battlefield with a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the greatest mana value among cards in exile. Ulamog has Annihilator X, where X is the number of 1/1 counters on it. Emrakul, the Eon's Torn, a banned card. I said it was in here. Listen, get over your nonsense with the banned list. I got to take pre-workout before talking about this because it really, really fires me up. I cannot stand the banned list. I actually hate it. The banned list is nonsense. It's hypocritical. It's oppressive, and it targets a certain type of Magic the Gathering collector and player. My whole argument, Sol Ring's a better card than a Mana Crypt. Like, I'll die on that hill. Sol Ring's a better card than Jeweled Lotus. But Sol Ring is loud, and Mana Crypt is not. That's BS, all right? Apparently, the banned list exists to make games play more fun. What's more toxic than Heuristic Study? That's allowed. What's more toxic than Smothering Tide? That's allowed. What is more toxic, honestly, than the most degenerate Magic the Gathering combo ever created, Vivi and Agatha's Soul Cauldron? Like, you can play with a Vivi and Agatha's Soul Cauldron. You can pull that kind of nonsense off. I'm going to use an Emrakul. I don't care. The banned list has no power in my pod, no power in my table, and no power over me. Again, it is oppressive, hypocritical, and it targets a certain type of Magic the Gathering player and collector. There, I said it. If you disagree, we'll debate in the comments, but you are wrong, all right? So, Emrakul the Eon's Torn. And by the way, I said this before, I think Emrakul the Promised End, because you can completely get rid of somebody's commander for the game or do all kinds of other nonsense, is a better card than Emrakul the Eon's Torn. But Emrakul the Eon's Torn can't be countered. When you cast Emrakul, take an extra turn after this one. Flying protection from colored spells, Annihilator 6. Maybe Eon's Torn is a better card than Promised End. I don't know. When Emrakul is put into a graveyard from anywhere, its owner shuffles his or her graveyard into their library. Another Emrakul being world anew, and I'm actually looking on my side computer. $6 card. Thought it was worth more. Super powerful. When you cast this spell, gain control of all creatures target player controls. Flying protection from spells and from permanents up cast this turn. When Emrakul the World anew leaves the battlefield, sacrifice all creatures you control. Madness, pay 6. We have 2 Kozileks left. Kozilek the Great Distortion. When you cast Kozilek the Great Distortion, if you have fewer than 7 cards in hand, draw cards equal to the difference. Menace, discard a card with converted mana cost X, counter target spell with converted mana cost X. And this is the one that I was going to cut. Massive casting cost. I think it's the weakest of all the Titans. And then we have another powerful Titan, Kozilek, the Broken Reality. When you cast the spell, up to 2 target players each manifest 2 cards from their hands. For each card manifested this way, you draw a card. Other colorless creatures you control get +3/+2. So a massive bump. There are our creatures, and our cut list is piling up. So stay tuned for the end of the video for that. There's actually a special card I want to add. But we are on to instants. Null Elemental Blast. Choose one. Counter target multicolored spell. Destroy target multicolored permanent. Not of this world. Counter target spell or ability that targets a permanent you control. I said I had all the Eldrazi cards. I really do. This is the anthology of the Eldrazi. Not of this world. Costs 7 less to cast. If it targets a spell or ability that targets a creature you control with power 7 or greater. Leave my Titans alone. Eldritch Immunity. Target creature you control gains protection for each color until the end of turn. Kozilek's command. Choose 2. Target player creates X 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature tokens with sacrifices creature, add a mana ramp. Target creature player scries, or target player scries X and draws a card. Slow down, Bobby Maximus. Exile target creature with mana value X or less. Exile up to X target cards from graveyards. All is dust. Each player sacrifices all permanents they control that are 1 or more colors. Selective obliteration. Each player chooses a color, then exile each permanent unless it's colorless or it's only the color its controller chose. Titans Present. As an additional cost to cast Titans Present, reveal a colorless creature card from your hand. Exile target creature if its power is less than or equal to the revealed card's power. Eldrazi Conscription. Enchanted creature gets +10/+10, trample Annihilator 2. And the Echoes of Eternity, big time in this deck. If a triggered ability of a colorless spell you control or another colorless permanent you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. Imagine this with all the Titans. Whenever you cast a colorless spell, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. All right, now, artifacts. And I talked about mana ramp. There's going to be a lot of mana ramp in here. Okay? Expedition map. There's an excessive amount of mana ramp in here, actually. But the Expedition map, sacrifice Expedition map, search your library for a land card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Then shuffle your library. Really important because we're going to want to get one of those Urza's lands. Idol of the False Gods. Pay 1 mana and a colorless, cap it, create a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature token with sacrifice this creature, add a mana. Whenever another Eldrazi you control dies, put a 1/1 counter on Idol of the False Gods. As long as Idol of the False Gods has 8 or more 1/1 counters on it, it's a 0/0 creature in addition to its other types and has Annihilator 2. Now, I just skipped over this a little bit. The importance of this, the significance of this card, is I want to chase some of the Urza lands because I've got a bunch of combos to generate a bunch of extra mana, or I want to get a land like Ugin's Labyrinth, super powerful. So that's why that's in here. More on that later, but just needed to give that a better explanation. We had the False Gods, now the Idol of Oblivion. Tap it, draw a card, activate only if you created a token this turn. Sacrifice Idol of Oblivion, create a 10/10 colorless Eldrazi creature token. Doubling Cube, autographed by Mark Tedden. Love autographed cards. I would get every card I own autographed if I could. Double the amount of each type of mana in your mana pool. Super useful for a mana ramp. Forsaken Monument, colorless creatures get a bump. Whenever you tap a permanent for mana, add an additional mana. Absolutely massive. Whenever you cast a colorless spell, you gain 2 life. Greenstone Hedron. It's got card draw, and you add 3 mana. Gilded Lotus, add 3 mana. Pithing Needle, shout out to Ben Bateman in his Jan Jansen deck. You want to shut down a Jan Jansen? Get a Pithing Needle. This Pithing Needle enters the battlefield, choose a card name. Activated abilities of sources with the chosen name can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. The Jeweled Lotus, again, banned card, but you play with a Soul Ring, you have no business telling me not to play with a Jeweled Lotus. Again, it's oppressive, it's hypocritical, it targets a certain type of Magic Gathering player, but sacrifice Jeweled Lotus at 3 mana of any one color, spend this mana only to cast your commander. We have a Felwar Stone, add a mana of any color to your mana pool. We have a Thought Vessel, no maximum hand size, add a mana. The greatest mana ramp card of all time, the Soul Ring. Mind Stone, got some card draw and add a mana. The Hedron Archive, got some card draw, add 2 mana. The Warrant Power Stone, add 2 mana. The Basalt Monolith, add 3 mana. The Thran Dynamo, add 3 mana. The Ever-Flowing Chalice, you can kick it a bunch of times, so you can add as much mana as you want, theoretically. We have the Mystic Forge now. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast artifact spells and colorless spells from the top of your library, pay 1 life, exile the top card of your library. And then we have a Basilisk Collar. Equipped creature has Death Touch and Lifelink. You stick that on an Eldrazi Titan, it is a nightmare for people. So there we go. Ton of mana ramp. Went through that fast and furious, but you know what those cards do. Just a bunch of great mana ramp. We have a bunch of wastes, and there's one special waste I want to show you. My follower, because it's one of my favorite cards. Absolutely love follow, obsessed. Those are like basic lands, kind of. They're not basics, but they're basics for an Eldrazi deck. And now for the fancy lands, the non-basics, all right? You already saw Ugin's Labyrinth. Incredible card. It's really, really valuable. The value of that right now is $28.28. It's actually come down a bit, but a great card from Modern Horizons 3. Imprint, when Ugin's Labyrinth enters the battlefield, you may exile a colorless card with mana value 7 or greater from your hand. One of the Titans, if you will. Tap it, add a mana. If the card is exiled with Ugin's Labyrinth, add 2 mana instead. Return the exiled card to its owner's hand. Great card. Tectonic Edge. Listen, all these lands are going to add colorless mana. I'm not going to read that. I'll just read their abilities. You can sacrifice Tectonic Edge and destroy target non-basic land. All right, great card. Blast Zone. You can put some charge counters on it, and then sacrifice Blast Zone, destroy each non-land permanent with mana value equal to the number of charge counters on Blast Zone. Tomb of the Spirit Dragon. You gain 1 life for each colorless creature you control. Spawning Bed. It is a way to make, if you sacrifice it, 3 colorless Scion creatures that can add 1 to your mana pool. Temple of the False Gods, add 2 to your mana pool. The Urza's lands. I was talking about that Urza combo earlier. Massive, right? Look at Urza's Workshop. You're going to add a colorless mana for each Urza's land you control. Activate only if you control 3 or more artifacts. And guess what? We have the power plant. We have the tower. We have the mine. And by the way, if you have all 3, you're going to add 2 or 3 mana to your mana pool. So that is massive. We have the Urza's Factory. We have the Urza's Cave, another way to tutor for lands. So a bunch of Urza's lands. We have the Radiant Fountain, a way to get some life. We have the Buried Ruins. Return a target artifact from the graveyard to your hand. The Rogue's Passage. Let's just make one of our Titans unblockable. They're pretty much unblockable anyway. The Eldrazi Temple. 1 to your mana pool, or 2 if it's an Eldrazi spell. The Eye of Ugin. Great land right here. Colorless Eldrazi spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. I really want to see this in my opening hand for this deck. Search your library for a colorless creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your library. Muruganda Raceway, Ether Drift, love the set. It's underrated. Don't at me about it. I really, really liked it. I also like Murders of Karlov Manor. If you don't like these sets, you are wrong, okay? Start your engines. You get to max speed. You can add 2 mana. There we go. Untap target land. It's Deserted Temple. Thespian Stage. Why do we have a Thespian Stage in here, Bobby? Because we have a Dark Depths. Why do we have a Dark Depths? Why not? We want a Merit Lade. We want a 2020 flying indestructible monster that just kills everybody. Sanctum of Ugin. Whenever you cast a colorless spell with converted mana cost 7 or greater, you may sacrifice Sanctum of Ugin. If you do, search your library for a colorless creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your library. The Labyrinth of Skophos. Remove target attacking or blocking creature from combat. The Darksteel Citadel. We have the Nesting Grounds as a way to move counters. We have the Dust Bowl, a way to destroy a non-basic land. The Ruins of Oran Reef, a way to put 1/1 counters on creatures. And the Shrine of the Forsaken Gods, all right? You can add 2 mana to cast colorless spells. Those are our non-basic lands. Now, I promised you some bonus content. We are going to make some changes. We got to get the mana value down of this deck. And we got to find ways to cheat out our Eldrazi. And in reviewing my decks last night, actually, I came across a card that I had forgotten about a little bit that I want to put in this deck. Now, the current mana value of this deck is 303. There's some more metadata. It's $631. This is all on my mock skill, by the way. There will be a link in the show notes. We've got 4 tutor cards in this deck, okay? Technically, you could probably play it as a bracket too, but it's 303 right now. We want to get it down. We are going to take out Kozilek, the Great Distortion, casting cost of 10, and it's the worst of the Titans. So let's get rid of this one. And we are going to put in that card I found last night. Didn't just find it. I just was reminded of it. A great way to cheat out your big Eldrazi's, the Quicksilver Amulet. All right, great card. And that is a way to cheat out cards. You need to be able to cheat out cards in this deck to make it good. And is that a foil version? It is. To the $1.78 for the little less than Kozilek, but trust me, in this deck, that's going to be great. We reduced our casting cost by 6. We're down to $2.97. So here we go. Live updates. All right. That is going in there. What else did we want in here? I was talking about replacing the Scrawling Crawler, the Endbringer, and Karn Liberated. And I actually might keep the Scrawling Crawler. We're going to see. Karn Liberated's going to go. Why? Because he's not on theme with the Eldrazi, and I really, really like to build Eldrazi decks. And I'm actually going to put another non-themed Eldrazi card in here. But I love Sonic the Hedgehog, and we are going to put this Super State card in because this is the perfect place for it. So, where is that? It's an enchantment, the Super State. All right. It is worth more money. It is more of a fun card. I love the Universes Beyond. So Super State, you are in. There we go. And I like to bling my decks out a little bit. So away we go. Now, what are we going to replace for the Scrawling Crawler? I actually have the perfect card. Now, Scrawling Crawler is great. It's a $4 card. It's super useful in a certain type of deck. But we are going to take it out. I just removed it. And we are going to put in this beautiful Final Fantasy card, Herald's Horn. And why are we putting in Herald's Horn? Let's see how much you've been paying attention. We need ways to, let me just get this queued up first so I can address this. All right. We need ways to reduce the casting cost of our creatures. So this is going to reduce them by 1. All right. So really, really important. It's also at the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature card of the chosen type, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. It's going to give us a little bit of card draw advantage. So let's get that in there. And then the final one, the Endbringer. All right. The Endbringer is a great card. I like it, right? But it's a 6 casting cost. And I think we can do more. And I think I can educate you along the way. So we're going to get rid of the Endbringer. And it's not a massive casting cost reduction, but check out this card. I bet you've never seen this before. It's called the Mirage Mirror. And it's a little known Magic the Gathering card. It's not worth a lot of money, but in the right deck, it can work really, really well. And this one is from the Amonkhet set. Oh, sorry, not Amonkhet, the Hour of Devastation. All right. But love this card. Check this out. Mirage Mirror becomes a copy of target artifact, creature, or enchantment or land until the end of turn. So you can copy your Quicksilver Amulet. You can copy something like a Glaring Fleshraker, a Roaming Throne, a Thought-Knot Seer, a Kozilek's Channeler, the Spawn Sire of Ulamog. So Mirage Mirror, if you've got some great things to copy, it can be an absolute game ender. So love the Mirage Mirror. So there are some live changes that we made to our Emrakul the Promised End deck. Here's Emrakul the Promised End. So let's look at the new metadata. All right. Total mana values, 294. I'd like to get that down a little more, but that is my Emrakul the Promised End deck. Now, why am I unwilling to get the mana value lower? If I was really going to make this ultra competitive, again, this is a fairly competitive deck, but if I was really, really going to make this competitive, I have way too many Titans. That one's a 9. That one's a 12. That one's a 15. That one's a 10. That one's a 10. That one's 11. And this one's a 10. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Titans in the deck. And with the Promised End, it makes 8. I don't need 7, right? I would probably, if I was going to build this deck to be really, really competitive, I would take 4 of them away, leave 3 of them left, have a bunch of extra mana ramp. I'd get this mana, count down to something manageable, and away we would go. But why haven't I done it? Because I value collecting over winning sometimes, right? I value collecting over just pure efficiency. I do want to display all of the Eldrazi cards I love so much. I want to display them in my deck. That's why I have 2 Eldrazi decks. So just a little bit of a look behind the curtain of how I build decks. All right, so there we go. The Eldrazi, I got the tank top, I got the pre-workout, I got the beefiest deck of all time. If you love Eldrazi, let me know what I can add to this deck. I'm always tinkering with my decks. Like you just saw me right now do some live deck tech. I am always tinkering with my decks. Almost every day I add a card to one of my 57 commander decks. If you make the suggestion, chances are I will make the change if it's a good one. So please put that in the comments below. Subscribe, watch the other videos, comment, support. And thank you for being part of a massive passion of mine and allowing me to spend some time with you and show off one of my favorite decks ever, Eldrazi for life.